Hello everyone, and I know you're used to high tea, but today we are having an afternoon tea. Or maybe we could just have a nice afternoon, some mocktail before we go ahead. So today we are with Ishan Majumdar. He's a qualified chartered accountant. He has a rich corporate exposure, having worked in investment banking and strategy roles in multinational companies such as BNP Paribas, Credit Agricole, Danone, and so on and on. He's currently running his own financial advisory firm called Bapitsa Research, based in New Delhi. And to top all this, he has written two novels, which is based on corporate thriller. And the first debut novel was The Celestial Files, and the second one is The Coercion, which is released right now. And we have a lot to talk to this guy who balances his left brain as well as right brain. And he is live with us, so let's send him a request and get him live. Hi Ranveer, hi Dr. Rasna. Hello Shahidi.
Hi.
Hi Ishan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I have a problem with numbers, so I'm really nervous about the chat today because you're extremely good with numbers as well as words, which is like a very rare combination.
That's okay. I mean, you really make me feel. You really put me on top of the world. But I mean, I'm not that great. It's just, I mean, okay. I mean, we just do what I like. I mean, that's not. That's all. Nothing. Nothing
Yeah,
to.
but
I mean,
the way you balance both of them, I mean, it's very rarely the left and the right brain is balanced so well. At least I haven't come across somebody who manages to be on the top when it comes to being like, the way your advisory financial firm is. You are on the top there, your books are doing on the top. Like, how do you play the number and the word game together?
I mean, I think it's not. Okay, I don't know about being on the top, but yeah, I mean, I just one aspect which I personally believe keeps me involved in both these worlds is that okay, I live alone, so I have a lot of time for myself. So that kind of gives me time, and plus, I in my firm also I operate out of my home, and I mean most of my employees whatever, they're all based out of their home, so it's like more of like a work from home arrangement from day one, way before the COVID took place. So it's always this operation operating in isolation, which kind of makes me focus on every aspect, whether it be literature or whether it be finance, in a better way. And I personally am a big follower of individualism over collectivism. So I believe that individual evolution rather takes place through his own hard work rather than being in groups or being in uh, like being in large corporates, for example. Of course, corporates grow faster in terms. I'm talking from a professional standpoint, but like as an individual, your brain can evolve faster if you operate on your own rather than say taking inputs from 10 people and then thinking about a book idea or whatever. That's usually how that's my perception of things.
Wow, I just saw individualism and individual evaluation like completely different. I mean, I've suddenly gone like, oh my God, this is a new theory, and I think I'm going to follow it because that's me. I cannot be in a corporate, but at the same time, like you, I like to do a lot of things. So this is an amazing insight to your left and right brain, I must say.
Yeah, but I mean, you also, like when you wrote your book, I mean, from whatever you've told me about your experiences so far, I mean, you've also been very isolated when you were writing, and you always had this certain, fixed place to go, fixed thing, a fixed approach, procedure that you followed. So you weren't really much of a person taking inputs from people either. So you kind of subconsciously followed my philosophy there as well.
Yeah, that time I was subconsciously following the philosophy. Now I think you've just imprinted it all the more. So I wouldn't be surprised if today after our chat I go ahead and start writing the book again.
You say that every time, but you never, really. I'm actually waiting for your second book. Yeah, seriously.
Oh my
No,
God, now the pressures are increasing. But let me get started with the questions that people have DM'd me because the moment we put our chat, everyone was amazed to know about a lot of things, and a lot of your fan following has messaged me because they've loved your two books that you've written and they're already waiting for the third one. So tell me, what was your drive to study numbers and become a chartered accountant first? Matlab,
Yeah, so that is actually a very easy question to answer. That's because my parents were CS, so they forced me into it. So let's just end it. So
but
I
how did
just
you develop passion for it? I mean, you started because obviously parents were CA and then you got into your education and all. But what motivated you to that extent? Parents always tend to force students to follow a particular thing. Like, if I'm a lawyer, my kid has to be a lawyer. So the same way. But then you
Mm,
developed a passion for it. And today you have
mm,
your own advisory firm. So
mm.
what made you like those numbers? What was the game behind that for you?
So I'll tell you what I do in my firm is not typically CA work. So I entered CA because of my parents and I kind of completed it. The thing is that I have a highly escapist mentality, which is also what prompts me to write as well. It's actually not a very positive trait, but it is something which I must admit. So I like to escape from my troubles through either reading or writing or whatever. So even when I was younger, I wanted to so I was like a very obedient, geeky kid. So I just, listened to whatever my parents said and I would just study. But deep down, I hated it. So I was like looking for a path to escape. So for me, escaping was not just the course or anything, it was like the country. So like when I was like, yeah, I want to get out of this, let me just apply abroad, to universities and all. So I just kept studying very hard so that sala ye jaldi khatam ho jaye, taki I can go away and do something abroad and just stay away from all this. So that kind of, prompted me to work even harder and finish and get done with the course and then move away. So what I do is actually my firm is basically an equity research firm. So you rarely find CAs running equity research firms. They mostly do audit and taxation. It's more of into, it's like competing more with banks directly in terms of covering US stocks. So that's what my core is. So normally you have MBAs doing this kind of stuff, not CAs. So that's what I learned when I went and worked in France and studied there. So that's basically a continuation of that. I haven't really used much of my CA degree. In fact, very often I joke with my friends that, I can actually sell it off on OLX or something. But it's just what my parents, my parents pushed me to, okay, I'm good at numbers or something. I think there are two very different things, being good at something and liking something. Numbers is something I'm good at. Okay, I do like it as well, but it's not my passion. So I just do it. I mean, it's just, I love reading. I love writing. That is my passion. Numbers is something I'm very good at. So I'm very proud of, it boosts my ego to do it. That's somewhat.
Wow. So, how did
Yeah.
you think of your own name, Baptista Research, as your name? Like, what motivated you to keep that name for your firm?
That was actually it's a funny story, but the thing is that so there were three of friends in our business school HEC Paris where we studied, and we had made this kind of a pact where we would name our firms after the street on which we were born. So so two of us actually ended up doing that. So we did it as a joke. So when it started, we just put in a name. It was just you type out a name on a website. But then, then you're like, when things keep growing and your firm keeps growing, then you are like, why should I change it? Or let's keep this only. So that is how the name came. And now today that name is on Thomson Reuters and S&P and all. And I'm like, Acha, this is how I kept the name and now it's becoming the funny story. Another thing is
Wow.
that the name is international, so it kind of bodes well with the US market. I mean, if I just kept my own name there, I mean, probably would not get as much readership as what I get if if I would have since I've kept Baptist Research. Yeah.
Your firm name, Baptista Research, and your name, Ishan Majumdar, is on S&P platform listed with some top global banks like JP Morgan and Barclays and all. How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, it feels great, but I mean, long way to go still. I mean, I'm still like a teeny weeny player as compared to them. I mean, right now, really focusing on very, very small companies in the States and helping them grow. Whereas the bigger banks are obviously with the Googles and the Microsofts and all. So, I mean, still a very, very long way to go. And my problem is that, my growth again is hampered by my individualistic approach. So I can't say I mean, if I want, I can just start an office, hire 30 people and, say, let's grow kind of, but I'm very much, trying to, balance both things out. Don't want to have too many people, and at the same time, keep growing, but not, okay, I'm not overly ambitious in terms of money. So okay, so there's sufficient required to have a good life, good standard of living, but not too much. I mean, that like I don't want to become like start a research house that's competing with, okay, not okay, they are already competing with the banks, but maybe something which is like hundreds of crores in turnover, and I'm working like 16 hours a day. That's not something I'm looking for.
Wow, but I must say the individualistic approach has got you till here. So I just wonder where all is going to happen, like down the line with our other live sessions, because usually people want a very comfort thing, that we are having a good job, a good pay is coming. You were working with a company and you overnight decided to start your own advisory firm, which is obviously like putting in a lot of hard work and getting out of your comfort zone. So what was it that one night that you decided, okay, I need to quit the company, start my own firm? How did it all happen?
So actually, I wanted to quit the company. So I was in a venture capital firm, which was like in the same neighborhood, and it was a good job. I mean, they were pretty good fun. Thing is that in 1 year down the line, I was like, yeah, you tend to get, every employee actually has this phase where they want to leave. First 6 months, they're very excited. Then after the first year, they want to leave. Then again, after 2 years, they want to leave. It's a typical chart of any employee. So first year ke baad I got that itch ki yaar I want to leave. Then I interviewed and I got jobs with some nice companies. I got an offer from Fidelity. Then I got an offer from Canadian Pension Fund. So like pretty high paying. Like one of them was actually paying me twice what I was earning there. And I was, okay, they were paying price because they would make me work a lot more. So that was again a trade-off. But like I didn't like interviewing much with the people there because I don't know, it was just the processes. I believe that interview is a two-way evaluation process where I'm evaluating them, they are evaluating me. See, as you grow as a fresher, you're desperate, so you are the only one being evaluated. But once you grow to middle management or maybe slightly high level of management, you start evaluating the person as well. That okay, are they smart enough to guide me, or are they, is the organization good enough for me and all? I mean, okay, and then I realized that not okay, money is great, but not, I don't know if I can grow there in terms of, intellectually, I don't think I can grow much. And then again, I got back in touch with these friends whom I'd made this pact about this naming my firm after my street thing. And, we were discussing, and one of them was like, it's a good idea, we can explore this market and all, the US equities market and stuff. And he was already in this space. And see, the good thing is, in friends, we don't have this competitive thing abroad. In India, whatever friends, sadly, whatever friends I have in my field are very competitive. But the ones who are there, like he himself, so imagine you are doing a particular business and you're telling me, yeah, you also come and do the exact same business and compete with me. It is like, they were like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, chalo, let's start. And then I started off, and then Baptist research kind of happened. I won't say that I struggled much because, see, the thing is that this field is there is a very close relationship between writing books and writing articles / writing reports. Both work on a royalty mechanism. Both, you get a certain percentage of whatever the number of reads. You get a certain fixed fee associated with it. In books, I don't get fixed fees, but because I'm obviously a new. But in articles and all, I get fixed fees because I write for sites like Yahoo Finance and all. So that whole process, plus you need to have a good English command while you are writing. So there are a lot of similarities. Of course, here it's only finance talk and here it is fiction, completely different. But apart from the subject, the process is very similar. So when I started this off, it's like you just supply your reports, you sell your articles, you get all your reports and you get money. It's where you sell is important, but even in the beginning, like the base that my friend had provided me, actually made sure I didn't earn as much as my salary, but I earned like 70-80% of that from the first month. So I was not that bad. So it was like, I could live my life, and then obviously I had enough time to grow and look for other options and try to earn more the dollar per hour income to increase that, and plus parallelly having enough time to write and read and stuff like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So people who say that they can't have time, I think they should hear our chat and know that they can remove time even if they are working to follow their passion. So, tell me, how did you decide to play with words from numbers? Like you said, there is a common ground between both, be it having a command over the language, be it the discipline and all. But did you always want to write a book, or it was something that a passion that grew with time?
So I know I did. I think when I first gave my aptitude test in grade 10, I think I remember getting like author as in one of the pointers, and I was like really intrigued, this is school. And then, first input that came was from my parents was like, they don't earn shit, just forget it. And normally people, what the perception for kids is that, okay, to become a writer, you need to study arts. And my parents would never let me take arts anyway. So it was like, okay, yaar, chalo, someday. But then I always imagined different stories and stuff like that, but never really got down to writing because, you're too busy as a student studying or maybe even trying to have fun or whatever. So the first time I actually got time was when I moved to Delhi and I started, when I was in France also I was working, but I was in an investment bank. We had like a 12 to 15 hour day. So I didn't have time there. Okay, it was a 5-day week, but weekend you're too exhausted to do anything.
True.
I had a 6-day week, but I was done with my work at 6:37. I was back home by 7:15, and I didn't have friends, which was I'm okay with it. I'm completely okay with not having friends in the city. I mean, I'm normally quite happy spending time with myself. So it was like that's when I started reading, and I was exploring, and then I think one day the story is that I was in Pacific Mall, if you know about it. It's a mall in Delhi, and it was there was this store. There was this little stall which was selling these pirated books, and I just saw one book of John Grisham on corporate espionage. It was something. It was The Associate. So the blurb was completely on corporate espionage. When I read the book, it was not so much about that. It was okay, but it was a good book. It was not bad at all. But I realized it was a bestseller. It had fantastic ratings and all. And when I read it, the language was so simple and so lucid. I was like, okay, for the first time I felt, I could write this. I mean, this is not so bad. So that's when, I went back to all the ideas which I had, like started building stuff. And then it took me a while, but then I finally came up with like a plot that I thought, yeah, this is different. This should be appealing. I didn't really think about the monetary aspect. I again didn't even think about the appeal. Like for example, for an Indian market, Filmy Chick is a book which is far more appealing than Celebrator's Fats because it appeals to a wider audience. In India, people prefer to read romantic books or prefer to read comedies. They don't read thrillers. They never read corporate espionage. I think, in my opinion, one of the world's best corporate espionage writer, Joseph Finder, is a name which 99% Indians are not even heard of. Or even in America, he doesn't sell that much, but it's a very big niche. But it's basically, he writes it obviously because he loves the genre. And I also love the genre a lot. So which is why I thought that, okay, I think that the quality in terms of the work that I want to produce should be decent for a first book, which is when when I looked at the plot, I didn't even get it evaluated by a third person or anything. I was like, yeah, this looks feasible. And I went ahead because there are a lot of factors that, you take into account. You're like number of pages. Okay. Ideally, like for your genre, it's between 200 and 300. For me, it's between 300 and 400. So I was like, okay, itne number of words, itne hone chahiye, chapters hone chahiye. So then that was the entire process. And then, once you start off and you start writing, then you don't, but see, you also know this. It's a rhythm, once you get into it, you're not going to stop.
Yeah.
But getting into it is a challenge.
That's the biggest challenge because, you keep thinking you have it all over here, but the whole idea to put it from your mind to the paper or the tab is the most difficult part. Like, I think it's been 2 years now. I have a concept, but the discipline to get into the rhythm just does not happen.
I personally believe that, I think there's some scientific study which says, 21 days you do a certain thing and you get habituated to it. So that part, over and above that, the part where, you just write, you just don't think, yeah, am I writing good? Am I writing bad? Just write something for the sake of it. Your idea, just write, think bad grammar, bad sentence formation, but just write. For 21 days, even if you write crap, by the 22nd, correcting crap is much easier than writing something good from the first minute. So, that is, I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to anybody who wants to write anything at all, whether it be an article, whether it be a book, whether it be a report, whether it be a short story, anything, just start.
Which is the biggest problem in life, to start, because everyone is articulating that how should we write, and everyone wants that very first piece to be the best piece. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Exactly.
the biggest, I think, challenge with oneself, like, how to go about. So what was the journey when you decided, okay, be it 21 days, you followed the discipline, you did everything, and you started writing a debut novel, The Electoral Files? How did that happen? Like, did you know this is my title always, or was it like with time? Did you give yourself a deadline? What was the whole journey of the first book?
So so the title, I finalized it halfway through the book. Title, I mean, I wanted something like, I liked the whole concept of Robert Ludlum novels a lot when I was younger. I didn't read a lot of them because they were super complex for like a teenager. But now, okay, I mean, I like reading them. But if you read his titles, all his titles are very similar. You can't figure out what the title means. But it's just, I mean, when you read the blurb or you start the book, you kind of slowly tend to figure out, okay, this is where it is going. So that was like the story behind the title. Yeah, I had a deadline of about a year. I wanted to finish it in a year, but I wrote like a maniac when I started the first, because there was always this fear that, I won't complete it. That was not there for the second, because once you complete something, you're automatically confident, yeah, this, I know I'll figure it out. But first, there was always a fear in the back of my mind that I would not be able to complete it. See, once you because I have an approach where I write the end first and then write the book. A lot of writers don't do that. There's some writers like Lee Child and all who start and then they just write with the flow. I want to know the end before I start the book. So I obviously had the full plot ready. This was starting off with the plot, then, doing character sketching, like Excel files where, you write about every character, smallest aspects ranging from their height, their hair color, their eyes, their characteristics, everything. And then, then of course you start off then you kind of put a layout chapter by chapter. Okay, this is what I want in the first phase of the book, second, third. Of course, you have to change that, keep changing that again and again. But, as a first step, it's a good thing to do. I averaged about 1,200 words per day for the first book, which was a lot. Second, I barely reached like 900. And like 1,200 words per day, the first book was around 85,000 words. So yeah, I finished it in less than 3 months, the first draft. Wow. And then of course, I was really, I spent a month or so, just correcting and rephrasing and stuff. Then I had a set of 5 people whom I approached for like an independent review of the manuscript before approaching a publisher. And I got a lot of feedback there, which was very, very valuable. So I think if you remember the first book, I think there's a kind of a time switch which takes place. The time switch was not my idea. It was one of my readers' ideas. And some of the reviewers actually told me that was the best thing that you could have actually done in the book, because if that wasn't there, people wouldn't be engaged in the beginning. So it involves a kidnapping. And the first chapter itself, the kidnapping takes place and then it goes back in time. So that thing was not my idea at all. I mean, I just went with the flow of the story. I mean, there was a second time switch which I had taken into account, which I had thought of. The first one was something which one of my, pre-publishing reviewers gave me that idea. So that is how, I prepared the first draft and then went forward. And I mean, then, the publisher reviews, they give changes and you argue with them. That is a standard process, which, I mean, everybody has to go through. But yeah, when it came out, I was quite happy that, I have actually completed it, and especially when people actually liked reading it, you liked reading it, I was quite happy about it. So I believe that you liked the second way more than the first.
Oh,
couldn't even remember.
I totally agree. Coercion was something I couldn't keep my, I think I stopped doing everything in 3 days. I was just reading Coercion and I really liked it, and especially because it's not my genre at all. So I had loved Coercion, and you're going to get a Coercion also, because that is something that, the book is just released this year. And before we go to the next question, I have to keep reading the comments, because a lot of comments have come, a lot of thumbs ups, a lot of hearts are flowing your way, a lot of emoticons with the hearts are flowing your way. And hello Javed, hello Raj, hello Shiva, Monica is saying, hi, boyfriend, love you, my intellectual, such an excellent writer. Um, Gaja and Vince Swagger is saying, really came across a really nice book, suggestions, keep rocking, God bless Ishan. And hello, Bhupi, hello, Mansingh. Okay, there are a lot of comments. I wish I could read all of them, but we'll go short on time. And I have a lot of questions that already people have messaged. So thank you everyone for commenting and putting in the questions. Please go ahead and continue. Okay, so tell me, what was the problem that you faced as a debut writer with the publication houses? Because that is something that all writers face, and especially debut writers, because we have no knowledge of what's going on. It's totally a new market, totally new line, and nowadays there's so many publication houses out there. So as your first debut novel, what were the hardships you faced?
So, I think that there is a kind of a oligopoly in terms of the large publishing houses which control the space within all the bookstores, like you see a Crossword or you see in Oxford. They're all, there are 4 or 5 of them. There's HarperCollins, there's Westland, I think recently got acquired, there's Rupa. So there are these 5 companies, and they are the ones which receive the maximum number of manuscripts. And the thing is that they don't launch new guys easily. So, I think it's not, and another thing which I understood very early in, before I started reaching out, was that my genre is not going to be something which is going to be readily accepted by them, because they're out there to make money. And let's face it, corporate espionage is a niche. It's not something which is going to sell 1 million copies or even 10,000 copies in one go, for that matter, because it's something which people it's corporate people who like to read this kind of stuff, and even non-corporates also, there are very few who actually read this. Another thing is there's a demographic issue in India. Men don't read that much. For my first novel, the protagonist was a female, but still, you have to keep in mind that the large part of the audience is female. So that kind of demotivates these large publication houses from going ahead with new writers like me. So then the option remains that you go for a smaller house, or you go which doesn't have a marketing budget. So anyway, you have to spend the money yourself on marketing the book, or you go for a direct self-publishing platform, and again you do the same thing. The only difference being that those guys at least publish your book for free. In the self-publishing, you pay a nominal amount and you get them published, and then you go ahead with the marketing process. So I obviously chose the latter approach, because I did have a contact with Jaico, and I had a contact with another couple of smaller houses, but I was not very sure of, because the thing is that it's the effort to reward ratio. You are a smaller house, upar se you'll make me change my character. You'll say that, okay, this is not fine, this is not fine. See, the number of changes that come in, the number of headaches that you go through with versus what you, it's like the end product, you're completely altering it, and those guys are not even that big. So it's not even like you're saving a hell of a lot of money.
True.
So that was the part which kind of demotivated me from approaching a smaller house, and just going by on my own. And then it's entirely the effort for marketing is what is key. So you need to really reach out. So for me, I knew most of my audiences were not local, so I kind of used Wattpad as a platform to promote. Just putting a few chapters of the book there, and I got a lot of downloads from Apple Store, and so most of the sales from my first book which took place were online. And what happened was, ebooks, they were not physical books. Okay, physical book distribution for people like us is very difficult, because the problem is that these guys they would keep a 10-year-old Harry Potter book in the store, but they keep a new book, because these books sell easily. Simple as that. Anybody who walks into a store will buy even a Cain and Abel of Jeffrey Archer, or they'll buy. So those books are first priority. When new author launches is one small. You have also seen it. Even the massivest of bookstores is one small, and 10 books in a row. Nobody will even go there. So it's not even in the front. So believing in that brick and mortar model, and begging a top 5 house to actually take you is is not worth the effort because the chance of them taking you are very, very slim. I mean, at least for me. See, okay, for some genre, like for your genre, I think it's definitely much more
No, the
plausible.
market is the same when you go to the bookstore. If you are a newcomer, no matter how good, even if you like, I remember I sold 500 books within a week, and we had title based saying it. But in spite of that, the book was kept like somewhere in some corner, and you had to be like, "Hello, you just gave a recording saying that it did so well, so why is it there?" So that's for all genres.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I remember the same had happened to me when I had walked into like Oxford in Connaught Place in Delhi. I was like, I had to actually search for it, and somewhere in some corner it was kept. And I was like, yeah, what the hell is this? And I mean, the guy's charging you money for like putting it
I
there. And I was like,
know. It's like so sad. And once I had gone to them and I had told them I'm coming. So suddenly my book was like placed perfectly. And when I went as a surprise visit, I realized those books are kept somewhere in the corner because they obviously were not expecting me to come. So that is how it is.
yeah.
So, Ishan, a lot of people are sending you thumbs up for your first book. Hi, Vivek Kapoor, Hitesh Kumbre, Irshad Khan, Evil Ayan, Lokash Singh Rajput is saying very nice. Kushal is saying go Ishan, go Ishan.
No, that's my friend. Yeah, Kushal is one of my best friends.
So that's so sweet. And
Yeah.
so, okay, tell me, you know how important it is today. Promotion is as important as writing a book. So, how do you evaluate it? How important it is to promote a book to make it bestseller or to make it reach to people in today's time?
No, I think like I would probably say it's more important than writing because I mean, you have to shout it out to the world. You can't just sit at home and say that, okay, a good book sells itself. That's something of the, Stone Age concept. Today, there's so many books out there, so many writers out there who are fantastic that you can't, I mean, like making the right book reach the right person is something which is a big task. And yeah, I mean, and there's no amount of money that you can spend. I mean, I mean, okay, you have like even if you have a crore of rupees, still you will not be able to reach out. It's not, I mean, you have to be very, strategic in where you're actually putting your promos, and reaching out to the kind of people. Like, for example, I'll give you an example of what I do. So I am a member of a lot of these, so I read only thrillers and I write only thrillers. So it's kind of, I mean, it's something which I've kind of grown up doing. I don't, so like I mean, I think Filmi Check is probably the only non-thriller book that I've read in the past 10 years, I would say. So so I'm a member of a lot of these clubs and I just say that, okay, I've put up a book and, why don't you guys have a look? So those guys are only, those clubs like on Facebook and all, they're only there for people who read this genre. So they are bound to go and download the ebook or buy the hard copy if they want. I ask the people of those clubs to actually review the book. So then I have like audience that is actually interested who will actually go and read and give me proper feedback. Yeah, if I put a Facebook ad and I market to everybody in India, I mean, nobody is going to buy the book. Yeah, it's not going to work. Even if I spend a crore of rupees marketing that ad, 100 copies will also not sell through that. So that is like, I'll tell you something very interesting which happened very recently. It was actually 2 days back. So I finished reading. So I think you know already, my favorite author is Lee Child. And Lee Child has like 23, 24 books. And I'm on his last book right now. I've read all of them. And he's coming out with this. I mean, he comes out with one book a year. But I mean, I read like 4 books a month. So it is. So I was like, yeah, I'm feeling very depressed. My favorite author, all books are done. So I went on that one of those pages and I read, I really like Lee Child books and all, protagonists with military backdrops, military thrillers, and etc. Can anybody suggest me something very similar? I've got at least 20 books, 20 different novels, which were as good, which were probably of lesser known authors, which have not been marketing their book as much. I mean, they have a decent number of reviews and everything on Goodreads. One book, I actually read like one chapter and it was so good. Wow. And I realized these guys have not spent money on marketing or they don't have the resources, whatever, their publishing house is small. But they're fantastic books and just not away. I mean, I can't see them because, I mean, they
haven't promoted themselves to reach you. Like,
exactly.
You're just saying that today promoting a book is much more than writing a book because it needs to reach the audience. And
precisely. Yeah.
in today's world, yeah, I totally agree. The promotion and writing is like hand in hand. You have to think of it and go ahead with it if you want it to be a success. Like just writing a good content is not enough.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But number of writers are also more, number of books are more. I mean, it's too competitive out there actually in the end.
So how did the coercion happen? Like, you wrote your first book, you did well, and then it was time for a second book. So while writing the first book itself, you had a thought in mind, or you took a break? How did coercion happen to you?
So it kind of was a continuation. So like I said, it was that part of that 21-day thing. So because I was in that rhythm, I never stopped. So like
Okay.
I completed the first. I might have taken like, okay, of course I was reviewing and stuff. So that also took up my time. But I had a lot of time for 2 to 2.5 hours a day in the evenings when I would work on my literature stuff. So normally when I took a break between books, I would read. So reading for me is a combination of pleasure and research. So it was, I mean, I read a couple of books and then at the same time I was formulating my ideas and stuff. And it was almost in. So I finished Coercion quite quick actually. Okay, it came out in 2020, but I had finished it way back. I think in the beginning of 2019, I had finished it. And it took me a year, okay, because finalizing how the process goes, finalizing a publishing house, getting people to read it, getting reviews. And also that process took over a year actually. So I had actually finished it, I would say, in the end of 2018. So 2017, Senator's Files came out. 2018, by the end of 2018, Coercion was done, including my second, third, fourth reading of the review of the book, of the manuscript by myself. Then after that, okay, I started giving it out to others and, to evaluate how it was shaping up. But but the publication and the pre-publication process took over a year, which is why it came out in Feb.
2020, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually when you write your first novel, you don't tend to have any pressure because you are a debutant. You really don't have anyone judging you and all. But the moment you write your second novel, there are slight pressures because people have actually read your novel, they've appreciated it. So, did you go through any pressures at that time while you were writing Coercion?
No, so not while writing, no, because I've not read a lot of reviews of the Senator's Files. They actually came in very slowly. So I think I was halfway through it when I realized, okay, there's a lot of people who are actually liking the book and all. And at some point after I finished the manuscript, there must be so many days when I questioned myself as to whether I should publish this or not. I was very, very unsure. See, the thing is, there was behind the Coercion, there's one story is that, see, this whole link to the whole VC industry and the e-commerce bubble and all, which is there in the book, which lies as the base of the book, was largely because I kind of felt like I owed it to people to actually write about this since I've experienced so much in this industry, because I was working in a VC fund here. And my fund didn't do anything of what the funds in the book are shown to be doing. But, you see the mindset that is there, and you can actually, it's not a very healthy mindset in terms of, like what companies have, what VC funds have. So that was something which I kind of saw. I wanted to fictionalize and put it forward. So at that time, when you make the first draft of the story, it sounds great, like, arey, this is going to be like a rocking book and all. But then when you complete the manuscript, you keep questioning yourself. I'll tell you, to that extent, I had like some of the first initial round of pre-publication reviewers, the 4 or 5 people I approached, I had 2 or 3 of them actually tell me this is way better than the first, following you, exactly copying your review. But I was still not sure. I was like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to publish this. I'm not sure whether this is good enough. But then, I don't know. Then I read it. I actually reread the book twice after that to just think ki yaar karna chahiye ya nahi karna chahiye. Then that was when I even brought in certain changes. So if you remember in the book, there's a whole backstory to Aman's character about him being for a corporate intelligence agency, and then it kind of then blends into the story. Now, when you finish the book, you kind of realize, okay, this is why he is the way he is. But there was a lot of part of the backstory which I hadn't kept in there. So I made a lot of additional changes to make it more, to convince myself rather that I should go ahead. And after I published it, okay, of course, I mean, I was quite happy with it because I mean, a lot of reviews, a lot of people agreed with what you said. In fact, most people did. I mean, most people told me that it was better than the first. So yeah, that was kind of, I mean, I felt happy. I mean, I was more keen on writing something like a corporate crime come legal kind of a thing. But then it was, I mean, then I thought coercion has to be like the priority right now.
Okay, Vivek Kapoor 9 is asking us, reading seems to be a dying art. How do we get the next generation into reading?
I mean, that is the question of the century. I mean, for me, because I have till date, I meet people, and generally the first question I ask is, so are you fond of reading and all? And people are like, no, I mean, I like watching Netflix, or I mean, I don't know, they just act Netflix or whatever, just act as a substitute. And my honest answer is I don't know. I really don't know. I want people to read. I mean, I think it boosts your imaginative capabilities, cognitive skills. I mean, it really develops you as a person. And I mean, when I open these book clubs and all online, I mean, even like on Facebook and all, you have a few hundred people, and whereas when you go on the fan page of a TV series, there are like hundreds and thousands of people, and it's like, I mean, yeah, okay, it's not, but the thing is that people are spending way more time watching TV and watching these series and all rather than read. Earlier also people would watch TV, but still there was I mean, like, okay, I got this habit because both my parents read. So, I mean, they don't read as much as I do, but they like reading as a hobby. So that's why I developed this hobby. But problem is that I think we as a generation should believe that it is a good thing to develop this skill. And, seeing us only, the future generations will also do that. I mean, there's no other way out. I mean, if we only spend all our time, just sitting like couch potatoes and watching series and just getting fat, it's not going to work.
Okay, tell me the best compliment you've heard or received with your books. Give me the best compliment you received.
It was from you, undoubtedly. The second book. Undoubtedly, it was from you. I mean, I think it was like the way that day when you called up after you finished the book. I mean, again, you rarely call me. I know we normally talk on text. So it was like, I was a bit surprised because I think I was on an official call and I was like, okay, I just call back. And I just called you up. Okay, I was wondering what happened. And then you call up and the way, I mean, I don't know if even you don't remember it. It was like, I mean, I even called my parents after, Shweta read my book so much. I mean, I've never had anybody tell me that they like my book this much. I mean, it's just like, and you were like so elaborate the way you were complimenting my book. It was like, this part is so good, this part is so well. And you went almost part by part, you went, and it's like never so like, okay, everybody's okay, the book was nice, the end was nice. You actually went on to say, okay, the middle, this part was nice, this part was nice. So it was so detailed. In fact, so many parts I myself had forgotten because written quite a while back, and I was like, wow, I mean, this was, I felt completely.
Okay, I had no idea I had that effect after reading the book. And if I wouldn't have asked this question. But seriously, since I remember when you gave me the book to blog about it and all, and I was like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to do it because this is not my genre. You know it, like the first book, it took me how many days to like complete, and but when I started this book, there was something about this book, and especially for a person who's not from the field. I mean, I'm not from the corporate field. Whatever I know about the stocks and everything is whatever little bit I have a chat with you. So for me to understand the venture capitalist thing, you explain those things, and I was like, okay, this book is something that, and when I had to blog about it, I'm like, okay, I don't want to give spoilers. What do I need to do with this one? So, Coercion did have that effect on me. I was literally kidnapped by that book, I can say.
I'm glad that somebody actually, I mean, a lot of people actually like the book. I mean, Coercion also, I am very happy for one thing. I get compliments for the climaxes of my book. That actually because that is something I really work hard on. So I really, it's in the end, it's you're kind of trying to outwit the reader and kind of keep him guessing. So that is the challenge of any thriller writer, and I really worked hard even on the first book, and even in the second book to make sure that the end is not very easily guessable. Okay, I'm sure that maybe out of 100, say 10, 20 people might be able to guess it. It's not, but the 80 should That's the thing. And even if for those 10, 20 who are able to guess it, they're still able to enjoy it, even though they've guessed.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, how do you balance between your left brain and right brain?
I mean, I think giving time to both of them is the most important thing. You have to have a dedicated discipline schedule, and you have to, like, even now, like right now, is a phase I am having a slack phase where I'm not writing, but I'm reading a lot. So I have at least 2 hours every day where I read, at least. So I mean, in the lockdown also, I have been working because my work is linked to the US stock market. So I've not had much of an off, but I still have at least 7 to 9 every day. Like there's a fixed time slot where I always sit and read, or I mean, I invest myself in this field, and I mean, it's trying out new authors, exploring uh, new sub-genres within the same genre, because I don't do much beyond thrillers. So it's more of that. So I kind of, this is how I keep this side of my brain active, which is, into the literature part. And work automatically keeps me involved in the business and the numbers part. That is, I mean, that's something I don't even have to do it. Like, it's something, it's that survival instinct. Yeah, I mean, you have to earn, so you have to work. So you have to grow your business, because it's not a job now that I sit at home and do nothing and I get paid for it or whatever. I mean, a government job where you just go to an office and you chill or whatever, and you're getting a fixed salary anyway. So it's not that. I mean, I have to do something new to keep evolving my business, and so the numbers part is taken care of. Then at the same time, I mean, I liked this whole concept of people doing all these courses on these online websites. So I myself also enrolled myself just to, to learn something new and just keep your brain active. So I was doing some small course in programming. So it was kind of, good to keep using my brain. And there are a lot of these brain exercises that people do. I mean, I also do them occasionally, like brushing with my left hand and stuff like that, just to stay active, not get rusty, in simple words. Yeah.
Okay, so I think everyone should know that we should continue doing some brain exercises so that we don't get rusty. And maybe we can also start tapping our left brain, because I think I tap only my right brain. I can't do anything. Like the moment numbers come, I'm like, oh God, I can't understand. Like my math is really bad. And the whole number game, you know how bad it is for me.
Yeah, but you are a highly creative professional. So, I mean, I think some people are specialists, some are generalists. I'm more of a generalist. So I'd strongly encourage you to be a specialist in your field, because, I mean, art as a field, I think you really specialize in that. And I think, I mean, instead of diversifying, if you really, I mean, like, you fall short of time in the day. Like 24 hours of a day are not enough to do. I mean, there's so much to do. So you're not able to write, you're not able to paint as much. I mean, so that's the thing. I mean, I would want you to actually, like, really, like, dedicate yourself to that side and not focus on the number side. There are too many people doing
Okay, so before we end and before Insta tells us goodbye, because our time is up almost, tell me quickly your favorite authors and one favorite book of that author.
Okay, favorite author is Lee Child. One first author, number one would be Lee Child. Favorite book is Running Blind by Lee Child. Second, okay, so in general, one of my favorite books is Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Although Dan Brown, I wouldn't put him on my list of favorite authors, but these two books are true masterpieces. So I'm only talking about the thriller genre. Okay, non-thriller, my favorite book is The Accidental Billionaires, which was made into a movie, The Social Network, which is, of course, everybody knows about it. Other thriller authors, Michael Connelly. Second favorite book is The Brass Verdict, legal thriller, excellent book. Third favorite author, I would say, is David Baldacci. I mean, both his John Puller series and Will Robbie series are both fantastic. My personal favorite book is The Guilty, which is a Will Robbie series book. Then Joseph Finder, of course, corporate espionage. He's the best. He's your guy. And his favorite book, I would say, is Guilty Minds. It's a Nick Heller thriller. So that's another one. And recently, I would like to recommend one more author, which I've tried out very recently. Is a guy called Nicholas Petrie. Military thrillers, again, more on the lines of Jack Reacher. And so I've read 3 of his books. All 3 were very, very good. So, I mean, these are all the authors I would really, really recommend. Indian authors, I'd recommend you, undoubtedly. I don't read thrillers of Indian authors. You're the only Indian author I've read. So I recommend everybody to go and read Filmy Chick. I finished it in 1.5 days. It was like watching a 1.5 day long romantic comedy kind of a thing.
Thank you so much.
More comedy than romance, but like outright fun. For those who have not read it, please go and read Filmy Chick.
Hi, Dr. Saju. Hi, Rajesh. So, everyone, okay, please do read Filmy Chick Psychofilmizing Life. Thank you so much for promoting my book too. But jokes apart, everyone, you have to read his new book, The Coercion. It is available online and it is a corporate thriller. And trust me, even if it's not your genre, you're going to love this genre because I have loved it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
So thank you for joining us live, and we are looking forward for the third book. So hopefully we come back live with your third book very soon.
Yes, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah.